Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a captivating journey into the heart of unexpected harmony. Today, we invite you to immerse yourselves in The Unexpected Melody, a 5-chapter saga that begins in the dimly lit, soulful confines of a Seattle jazz club. Meet Jasper Thorne, a man cloaked in solitude whose carefully orchestrated life is about to be shattered by the sudden appearance of 2 lost children and a name that echoes from a painful past. What secrets do these children hold? Can a broken melody ever truly find its harmony? Before we begin, please hit that subscribe button, like this video, and prepare to be moved by a tale of rediscovered love, family, and the profound power of music. Underneath the perpetual drizzle of Seattle, within the brick embrace of a building that had seen more rain than sun, lay the Blue Note. Its neon sign, a fractured sapphire against the bruised evening sky, hummed a weary jazz tune of its own, a subtle counterpoint to the genuine melodies that drifted from within. Jasper Thorne, the proprietor, was a man carved from the city's own melancholic stone. His life, once a vibrant crescendo, had settled into a quiet, monotonous rhythm 5 years ago, after Lena, a woman who had painted his world in audacious hues, had simply vanished like a ghost note in a forgotten melody. Jasper moved through his club with the quiet efficiency of a man who had mastered the art of being alone. His tall, lean frame, often clad in a dark, impeccably tailored suit, seemed to absorb the ambient light, making him almost a shadow against the dim, smoky backdrop of the stage. His hands, long and elegant, that once danced across piano keys, with fiery passion now deftly polished glasses or adjusted the mic stand, each movement a silent testament to a life meticulously ordered to avoid chaos, to avoid pain. His eyes, the color of a stormy sea, held a depth that spoke of unspoken stories and unhealed wounds. They rarely met another's gaze directly, preferring instead to scan the periphery, as if perpetually searching for something lost, or perhaps deliberately avoiding something found. He was a creature of habit, his days a predictable cycle of solitude and the quiet hum of jazz, a self-imposed exile from the emotional turbulence he had once known. The Blue Note was his sanctuary, a meticulously constructed fortress against the world, each clinking glass and whispered conversation a muffled echo against the thick walls of his self-containment. It was a night woven from rain and wind, a symphony of nature's raw power when the unexpected melody arrived. The kind of night where the city seemed to hold its breath and every gust of wind felt like a sigh. The Blue Note was sparsely populated, a scattering of regulars seeking refuge from the deluge, their faces softened by the amber glow of the stage lights. The mournful wail of a saxophone filled the air, a perfect accompaniment to Jasper's brooding mood. Then the bell above the door chimed, a sharper, more insistent note than usual, cutting through the music like a discordant chord. He glanced up, expecting to see a late-arriving patron, but what he saw instead made his perfectly ordered world tilt on its axis. Framed in the doorway, drenched and shivering, stood 2 children. A girl, perhaps 7 or 8, with a tangle of dark curls plastered to her forehead, clutched the hand of a smaller boy, no older than 5, whose eyes, wide and luminous, were fixated on the dimly lit stage. They were a stark, vibrant splash of unexpected color against the muted canvas of Jasper's life. The girl, her small face smudged with dirt, wore a defiant, almost fierce expression that belied her obvious vulnerability. The boy, however, was a study in fragile innocence, his lower lip trembling, his gaze drifting towards the warm glow of the fireplace in the corner. "Excuse me." The girl's voice, surprisingly steady despite the shivers racking her small frame, cut through the jazz. It was a voice that held a surprising resonance, a melody of its own. We're lost." Jasper, who usually handled such intrusions with a detached efficiency that bordered on brusqueness, found himself momentarily paralyzed. Lost children. In his club. It was an anomaly, a glitch in the carefully programmed routine of his existence. He took a hesitant step forward, his mind scrambling for the appropriate protocol. "Where are your parents?" he asked, his voice rougher than he intended. The girl's shoulders slumped, her defiance fading slightly. "We don't know where they are. We got separated." She gestured vaguely towards the pounding rain outside. "And it's really cold." Jasper's gaze drifted to the boy, who was now hugging himself, a faint whimper escaping his lips. His heart, long, dormant, stirred uncomfortably. He noticed a small velvet pouch clutched tightly in the girl's hand, its dark fabric embroidered with what looked like a delicate, intertwined musical note. A treble clef, intricately woven with a bass clef. A phantom ache shot through Jasper's chest, a vivid memory of another such pouch, identical in every detail, that had once belonged to Lena. It was a gift he had given her, a symbol of their shared love for music, a token she had always carried, with her. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice softer this time, drawn by the unsettling familiarity of the pouch. "Maisie," the girl replied, her eyes a startling shade of green, meeting his directly. "And this is Leo." As if on cue, Leo, still shivering, began to hum. It wasn't a childish, tuneless drone, but a distinct, familiar melody, a haunting jazz refrain that made Jasper's breath catch in his throat. It was the opening few bars of Stardust, Lena's favorite song, a tune they had often played together, a melody intrinsically linked to their shared history. His hand, still clutching the polishing cloth, trembled imperceptibly. "Eleanor Vance," Maisie blurted out, her voice a sudden, urgent whisper, as if she were finally remembering a crucial piece of information. "Our mom's name is Eleanor Vance." The words hit Jasper like a physical blow, a sudden, sharp jolt that sent a tremor through his entire being. Eleanor Vance. The name echoed in his mind, merging with the haunting strains of Stardust that Leo was still humming. It was a name he hadn't heard, hadn't dared to utter in 5 long years. Lena. Could it be? The thought, fleeting and audacious, sent a cascade of conflicting emotions through him. Disbelief, a sliver of desperate hope, and the bitter taste of a past he had worked so hard to bury. The meticulously constructed walls of his fortress began to crack, threatening to crumble under the weight of this unexpected intrusion. He stared at the children, their faces pale and drawn in the dim light, the rain still dripping from their clothes onto his polished floor. Maisie with her fierce green eyes and the velvet pouch, and Leo humming Lena's song. The pieces, disparate and disjointed, were beginning to align, forming a pattern too uncanny to be mere coincidence. The chill of the rain outside seemed to seep into his bones, but it was nothing compared to the cold dread and the thrilling, terrifying surge of possibility that now gripped his heart. He knew, with a certainty that transcended logic, that these two small, lost figures held the key to his past. A past he had tried to erase, a past that now, with a cruel twist of fate, had come knocking on his door, not with a gentle tap, but with the sudden, jarring impact of an unexpected melody. The jazz music, once a soothing balm, now seemed to throb with an insistent question, pulling him further into the unfolding mystery. This was no ordinary night at the Blue Note. This was the beginning of something that would irrevocably alter the solitary rhythm of Jasper Thorne's life. He had spent years meticulously avoiding the past, but the past, it seemed, had finally caught up, disguised as 2 innocent children in a storm, and he knew, with a chilling clarity, that his carefully constructed world was about to be irrevocably shattered, rebuilt by the haunting notes of a forgotten song. The chilling realization that Eleanor Vance was Lena, coupled with Leo's haunting rendition of Stardust and Maisie's quiet intensity, sent a seismic tremor through Jasper Thorne. His carefully constructed world, once a meticulous arrangement of predictable solos, now vibrated with the chaotic discord of an unexpected improvisation. The very air in the Blue Note seemed to thicken, pressing down on him. His initial instinct, honed by years of self-preservation, was to retreat, to push these unsettling echoes of his past back into the stormy night. But something, a faint, almost imperceptible whisper from a long-buried part of him, held him rooted. It was the unbidden image of Lena, smiling, her eyes alight with a passion that had once mirrored his own. He looked at the children, their small forms huddled together, Maisie clutching the velvet pouch like a precious talisman. Her green eyes, so startlingly familiar, met his with a mixture of apprehension and a fierce, unspoken plea. Leo, his head buried against his sister's side, continued to hum, a fragile off-key lullaby that was both heartbreaking and utterly captivating. Their vulnerability was a stark contrast to Jasper's steely exterior, a jagged edge against his smooth, unyielding facade. "Come on," Jasper said, his voice clipped, betraying the turmoil within. He gestured towards a secluded booth, away from the few lingering patrons whose gazes had begun to linger on the unusual tableau. "You can't stay out there." He led them to the booth, a shadowy nook tucked away from the main stage, and fetched 2 mugs of hot chocolate, a concession he would have previously scoffed at. As the warmth seeped into their small hands, the color slowly began to return to their cheeks. Maisie, once her initial shivers subsided, became more animated, her words tumbling out in a rush, painting fragmented pictures of their life on the road. They were traveling musicians, she explained, with a gravity that belied her age. Their mother, Eleanor, had been performing in a small club a few blocks away when they'd gotten separated in the downpour. There was no father, she stated, with a dismissive wave of her hand, as if the concept was as irrelevant as a forgotten chord. But it was Leo who held Jasper's attention. The boy, initially withdrawn, slowly unfurled like a delicate flower. His humming, which had been a constant soft background noise, grew louder, clearer. He would tap out rhythms on the tabletop with surprising precision, his small fingers dancing with an innate understanding of beat and timing. He picked up a spoon and tapped a complex syncopation against the rim of his mug, his eyes alight with a silent joy. Jasper watched him, fascinated, a familiar ache blooming in his chest. It was the same intuitive connection to music that Lena had possessed, an almost supernatural ability to hear and feel the rhythm of the world. He found himself studying Leo's profile, searching for any hint of familiarity, any echo of Lena in his small features. The boy's hair, a lighter shade of brown than Maisie's, had a curious reddish glint when the light caught it, a glint that seemed to tug at a deep, forgotten corner of Jasper's memory. The velvet pouch remained clutched in Maisie's hand, a silent, potent symbol. Jasper tried to draw her out about it. "What's in there?" he asked, his voice carefully neutral. Maisie's grip tightened. "Just special things from our mom." She offered no more, her small face closing off, a protective barrier descending. It was a familiar gesture, one that reminded Jasper of Lena's own guarded nature, her tendency to keep her secrets tucked away. Hours crawled by. The last patrons drifted out, leaving Jasper alone with the 2 unexpected guests. The rain, relentless, continued its drumming against the window panes. He tried calling the club Maisie mentioned, but there was no Eleanor Vance on their roster. He tried other local venues, his anxiety steadily mounting with each unanswered call, each dead end. A cold knot of dread began to form in his stomach. Where was their mother, and why had she simply vanished, leaving them alone? The thought of turning them over to child services gnawed at him. His solitary life was not set up for children, especially not children with such a profound and unsettling connection to his past. He pictured the sterile offices, the questions, the bureaucracy. He pictured Maisie's defiant eyes dimming, Leo's fragile spirit breaking. A phantom sense of responsibility, as alien as it was insistent, began to settle over him. He looked. Around his apartment, a minimalist sanctuary of dark wood, worn leather, and neatly stacked jazz records. It was a place built for one, a monument to solitude. Now it felt strangely vast, echoing with the unspoken presence of 2 small lives. The silence, once a comfort, now felt oppressive, punctuated only by the distant wail of a siren and the rhythmic drumming of the rain. "Look," he said, his voice surprisingly gentle as he turned to the children who were now huddled together on the plush, oversized armchair, Maisie reading aloud from a tattered picture book to a sleepy Leo. "It's late. Your mom isn't here. You can stay here for the night." Maisie's green eyes, wide with disbelief and a flicker of something akin to hope, locked with his. "Really?" "Yes." Jasper sighed, the word feeling foreign on his tongue. He led them to the spare bedroom, a room that had remained untouched for years, a testament to his unwavering commitment to his solitary existence. It was meticulously clean, but utterly devoid of warmth, of life. He pulled out extra blankets, his movements stiff and awkward. As he tucked them in, Maisie murmured, "Thank you, Mr. Thorne." Her voice, soft with sleep, carried a profound sincerity that chipped away at another layer of Jasper's carefully constructed indifference. Leo, already asleep, snuggled deeper into the blankets, a small contented sigh escaping his lips. Jasper noticed a simple silver chain around Leo's neck, a small worn charm dangling from it. He leaned closer, squinting in the dim light. It was a tiny, intricately carved silver piano key. Another shock, another tremor. Lena had worn an identical charm, a gift from her mother, a symbol of her musical legacy. The coincidences were no longer coincidences. They were threads, weaving a tapestry of undeniable, unsettling truth. Back in the living room, Jasper poured himself a strong drink, the amber liquid glinting in the low light. He paced, the floorboards creaking under his weight, each step a further descent into the labyrinth of his past. The silence of his apartment, once a comfort, now felt like a vast, echoing chamber, filled with the ghosts of forgotten melodies and the haunting presence of the two children sleeping soundly in the next room. He wrestled with the implications, with the sheer audacity of this sudden intrusion. These children, with their uncanny similarities to Lena, their possession of her most cherished belongings, their mother bearing a name so eerily close to hers. It was too much. It had to be her. But if it was Lena, why had she left them? And why had she given a different name? His thoughts circled back to Leo's humming, to the effortless way his small fingers had tapped out rhythms. It was an innate talent, a musicality that resonated with Jasper's own dormant passion. A tiny, irrational flicker of hope ignited within him. Could Leo be his son? The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying, a volatile cocktail of emotions that threatened to overwhelm him. And Maisie, with her green eyes and fierce spirit, the very thought of her being his daughter sent a strange warmth spreading through his chest, a feeling he hadn't experienced in years. But if Maisie was his, and Leo was Lena's with another man, the implications were even more complex, more painful. He knew he couldn't ignore this. His solitary life, meticulously constructed, had been breached. The fortress had fallen. He had to find Eleanor Vance to uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. He would contact the police in the morning, relaying the details of the children's appearance and the name Eleanor Vance, hoping to find answers without revealing his own deeply personal connection to the woman. But who would look after the children while he was gone? His gaze fell on an old photograph tucked away on a dusty shelf. Mrs. Henderson, his former piano teacher, a woman with a kind smile and an endless supply of patience, who had always had a soft spot for him. She was one of the few people who had managed to pierce through his carefully constructed aloofness. A sudden, unexpected wave of warmth washed over him. Mrs. Henderson. She was the one. She wouldn't ask questions. She would simply help. The thought brought a strange sense of relief, a tiny anchor in the swirling storm of his emotions. As dawn approached, painting the sky in bruised shades of violet and gray, Jasper sat by the window, watching the rain finally subside. The city lights, once blurred by the downpour, began to sharpen. The Blue Note, his sanctuary, now felt like a crucible, a place where his past and present had collided with an unforeseen force. He had spent years meticulously avoiding the echoes of Lena, but now the echoes were alive, tangible, sleeping, just down the hall. His life, once a solo performance, was about to become a complex, challenging duet, perhaps even a quartet. The melody, once unexpected, now pulsed with a nascent rhythm, pulling him irrevocably forward into a future he had never dared to imagine. He knew with a certainty that chilled him to the bone that his life would never be the same. The question wasn't if his walls would come down, but what would be left of him once they did. The truth, whatever it was, waited, and Jasper, for the first time in a long time, felt a terrifying yet exhilarating sense of purpose. The dawn that broke over. Seattle was not a gentle one. It was a bruised, restless sky, mirroring the storm brewing inside Jasper Thorne. He had barely slept. The image of Maisie and Leo in his spare room, and the chilling echoes of Lena's past, swirling in his mind like a chaotic jazz improvisation. The decision to call the police was a reluctant concession to logic, a desperate attempt to find answers in a world that suddenly felt unmoored. He still hadn't fully processed the startling possibility that Maisie and Leo were connected to Lena in such an intimate way, but the evidence, like stubborn bass notes, refused to be ignored. His call to the police was curt, precise. He reported 2 lost children, giving their names and the name Eleanor Vance as their mother. He omitted any personal connection, any hint of the internal earthquake shaking his foundations. The Dike officer on the other end was professional, dispassionate. Jasper felt a familiar pang of frustration, a cold dread creeping in. He knew deep down that this wouldn't be enough. He needed to be more active, to face this head-on, no matter how much his instincts screamed for retreat. He then made the call to Mrs. Henderson. Her voice, a warm, comforting alto, was a balm to his frayed nerves. "Jasper, dear boy, it's been too long. What can I do for you?" He explained the situation, choosing his words carefully, downplaying the emotional turbulence of the past night. "I have 2 children here, Mrs. Henderson. Lost. Their mother hasn't shown up. I need to go to the station, make some inquiries. Would you be able to watch them for a few hours?" A gentle pause. "Children, Jasper? In your solitary little fortress?" A hint of amusement laced her voice, but it was quickly replaced by warmth. "Of course, dear. I'll be right over. Give me 20 minutes." Her arrival was like a ray of sunlight cutting through the gloom. Mrs. Henderson was a woman woven from kindness and practicality. Her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun, her eyes crinkling at the corners with genuine warmth. She took in Maisie and Leo, still sleepy, but now bathed in the glow of the morning sun filtering through Jasper's apartment window, with an understanding gaze that seemed to miss nothing. Maisie, usually guarded, warmed to her instantly, drawn by the gentle cadence of Mrs. Henderson's voice and her comforting presence. Leo, emboldened, even offered a shy, off-key hum. As Mrs. Henderson settled in with the children, reading them a story from an old book Jasper hadn't known he owned, his phone buzzed. It was the police. "Mr. Thorne, we have an update on that. Name you gave us, Eleanor Vance. There was a recent accident, a hit-and-run early this morning. A woman matching the description, Eleanor Vance, was admitted to St. Jude's Hospital in critical condition." The word struck Jasper like a physical blow, more potent than any discordant note. St. Jude's Hospital. Critical condition. The blood drained from his face, leaving him cold and breathless. It was her. It had to be. The possibility he had fought to ignore, the terrifying whisper in his heart, was now a thunderous roar. "I need to go to the hospital," he stated, his voice tight, his gaze fixed on the children, unaware of the storm their mother was weathering. Mrs. Henderson, sensing the shift in his demeanor, simply nodded, her expression compassionate. The drive to the hospital was a blur. The city, usually a symphony of traffic and distant sirens, seemed to fall silent around him. His mind raced, a frantic fugue of questions and memories. Lena. After all this time, and now. Critical condition. A sickening fear gnawed at him, a terror he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years, the fear of losing her all over again, this time irrevocably. The hospital corridors were stark, impersonal, smelling of antiseptic and unspoken anxieties. He found the information desk, his voice a strained whisper as he asked for Eleanor Vance. The nurse, her face a mask of weary professionalism, directed him to the ICU. He pushed through the double doors, the sterile air chilling him to the bone. And then he saw her, lying still, almost lifeless, on a bed surrounded by humming machines and blinking lights. Her face, pale and bruised, was undeniably Lena's. The delicate curve of her jaw, the slight arch of her brow, even the way her dark hair fanned out against the white pillowcase. It was all her. But a Lena ravaged by something terrible, a Lena who was clinging to life by a thread. A wave of raw, gut-wrenching grief washed over him, a tsunami of suppressed emotions. 5 years. 5 years of burying her, of telling himself she was gone, of building a new life on the ashes of their past. And now here she was, the ghost made flesh, yet still teetering on the edge of vanishing once more. He reached out, his hand hovering inches from her still one, a desperate urge to touch her, to confirm she was real, to tell her he was there. But he couldn't. Not yet. He spent the next few days in a suspended state, a phantom presence in the ICU waiting room, alternating between anxious pacing and numb silence. Mrs. Henderson, a steadfast anchor in the swirling chaos, brought the children to visit, her presence a silent testament to her unwavering support. Maisie and Leo, sensing the gravity of the situation, were unusually quiet. Maisie would often sit by Lena's bedside, a small hand tentatively reaching out, a silent plea for her mother to awaken. Leo, clutching his silver piano key charm, would hum Stardust, a soft, hopeful melody that seemed to fill the sterile room with a fragile warmth. Jasper watched them, his heart aching with a pain that was both familiar and terrifyingly new. He saw Lena in Maisie's resilient spirit, in the defiance that flickered in her green eyes, and in Leo, with his innate musicality and that distinctive glint in his hair, he saw something else, something that both thrilled and tormented him. The questions gnawed at him, relentless and unforgiving. Why had she left? Why hadn't she contacted him? Why Eleanor Vance? Had she truly moved on? Had she found someone else? The thought twisted in his gut, a bitter counterpoint to the fragile hope that had begun to bloom. He imagined the life she must have built, a life that apparently included children, a life that hadn't included him. The bitterness was a familiar taste, but now it was laced with a profound sadness. For the children, for the lost years, for the silent melody of their unfulfilled love. Then, a flicker, a twitch of Lena's fingers, a slight flutter of her eyelids, and finally, after what felt like an eternity, her eyes opened. They were hazy, unfocused at first, but slowly recognition dawned. Her gaze met Jasper's, and in those deep, familiar pools, he saw a kaleidoscope of emotions: shock, fear, sorrow, and a profound weariness. Jasper? Her voice was a fragile whisper, a mere breath. He leaned in, his own voice thick with unshed tears. "Lena, you're awake." The confession came in hesitant, broken whispers over the next few days, as Lena slowly regained some strength. She spoke of the fear, the shame, the crushing weight of depression that had consumed her 5 years ago. She had felt unworthy of his love, a burden. She had convinced herself he would be better off without her. She had fled, seeking anonymity, a fresh start, a desperate attempt to outrun her demons. Eleanor Vance, she explained, was her middle name, a name she had adopted to shed her past, to become someone new. Then came the revelations that ripped through Jasper's already fragile composure. Leo, she confessed, was not his son. His father, Daniel, was a fellow musician she had met in her travels, a kind and gentle soul who had loved her fiercely and offered her a temporary solace. He had passed away suddenly a year ago, leaving Lena to care for Leo alone. The pain of this revelation was a sharp, unexpected sting, a jarring dissonance in the nascent harmony Jasper had begun to imagine. He looked at Leo, the boy he had instinctively felt a connection to, and the truth hit him with a fresh wave of grief. But then Lena's eyes, clouded with unshed tears, met his. "Maisie," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Maisie. She's yours, Jasper." The words hung in the air, a breathtaking, impossible revelation. Maisie, his daughter. A storm of emotions erupted within him, disbelief, a profound joy, a crushing guilt for the years lost, for the father he hadn't been. He looked at Maisie, who was currently coloring a picture for her mother, her little brow furrowed in concentration. Her vibrant green eyes, Lena's eyes, now held a new, deeper meaning. His daughter. The thought resonated through his very core, a powerful, unwavering chord. This was the unexpected melody, the one he had unknowingly longed for, the one that completed the fragmented symphony of his life. Just as this fragile, newfound hope began to bloom, the door to Lena's private room opened, and a stern-looking woman flanked by a somber man and a younger, visibly distressed woman stepped inside. Their eyes, cold and assessing, swept over Lena, then settled on Jasper. "Eleanor Vance," the stern woman began, her voice crisp and authoritative, like a sudden, unwelcome crescendo. "We are the Miller family. I am Martha Miller, Daniel's mother. This is my husband Robert and our daughter Clara. We've been looking for Leo." Her gaze narrowed, pinning Lena to the bed. "We understand you've been in an accident, and we've come to take our grandson home. We believe it's time he was with his true family." The words, sharp and unyielding, sliced through the delicate fabric of their newly formed family. The air crackled with a sudden, palpable tension. Jasper felt a primal protectiveness surge through him, a fierce, unwavering instinct to shield Lena and the children from this new threat. He looked at Lena, her face pale and drawn, her eyes wide with a fresh wave of fear. The joy of Maisie's revelation, the fragile hope for their future, was suddenly overshadowed by a formidable challenge. The unexpected melody, it seemed, was about to become a battle cry. The fight for their family, for their fragile newfound harmony, had just begun, and Jasper, for the first time in 5 years, felt a fierce, undeniable purpose, ready to face whatever discord life threw his way. The sterile air of Lena's hospital room crackled with an unspoken challenge, a sudden, jarring chord that shattered the fragile peace. Martha Miller, with her severe posture and eyes like polished steel, stood as a formidable, unwelcome presence. Her husband, Robert, a silent, imposing shadow, and their daughter, Clara, whose grief was etched starkly on her face, formed an impenetrable wall of familial claim. Their demand for Leo was not a request, but a decree, delivered with the cold authority of those who believed their right was absolute. Jasper, standing by Lena's bedside, felt a primal instinct to shield her. He moved subtly, positioning himself slightly in front of her, a silent guardian. Lena, still weak from her ordeal, struggled to sit straighter, her face a mask of pale defiance. Her eyes, usually pools of deep emotion, now held a glint of the fire he remembered, a spark of the woman who fought for what she believed in. "Leo is my son," Lena stated, her voice a reedy whisper that nevertheless carried a surprising strength. "He belongs with me." Martha's laugh was sharp, devoid of humor. "Belongs with you? A woman who vanishes for years, lives hand to mouth, and ends up in a hospital bed? Daniel provided for that boy. He deserves stability, a proper home, a family, who can give him a future." Her gaze swept over Jasper, dismissive and accusatory. "And who is this Eleanor? Another wandering minstrel?" Jasper's jaw tightened. The insult stung, but he held his tongue, his focus solely on Lena. He could feel her trembling slightly, but her gaze remained unwavering, fixed on Martha. "This is Jasper," Lena said, her voice gaining a little more strength. "He's Maisie's father, and he's standing by me." The revelation barely registered on Martha's face, so consumed was she by her own righteous indignation. Maisie? Another child? This is exactly what I mean. A chaotic, unstable life. Leo needs order, education, a legacy, a place in our family. She turned to Robert, who nodded grimly. We've already consulted with our lawyer, Eleanor. We intend to petition the court for full custody, for Leo's sake. The words hung heavy in the air, a legal guillotine poised over their fragile, nascent family. Lena closed her eyes for a moment, a sigh escaping her lips, a sound of profound exhaustion. When she opened them again, they held a quiet resolve. You'll have a fight on your hands, Martha. And so, the battle for Leo began. It was not a sudden explosion, but a slow, grinding siege, moving from the hushed hospital room to the impersonal battleground of the courtroom. Jasper, who had spent years avoiding conflict, found himself thrust into the heart of a legal maelstrom. He hired a lawyer, a sharp, empathetic woman named Clara Hayes, whose calm demeanor belied a formidable legal mind. Clara, with her perceptive questions and unwavering support, became an unexpected ally, a steadying presence in the chaotic symphony of legal proceedings. The Millers, driven by a blend of genuine grief for their son Daniel and a fierce, almost suffocating sense of entitlement, launched their offensive with ruthless efficiency. They painted Lena as an irresponsible, transient mother, citing her unexplained disappearance, her Eleanor Vance alias, and her current fragile health as undeniable proof of her unsuitability. They highlighted Daniel's stable upbringing, his professional achievements, and the substantial inheritance he had left for Leo, a stark contrast to Lena's seemingly nomadic existence. Their arguments were cold, clinical, devoid of emotion, yet devastatingly effective. Lena, despite her physical weakness, fought with the ferocity of a lioness protecting her cub. Each day she would push herself to attend meetings with Clara, to recount the painful details of her past, to dredge up the shame and regret she had tried so hard to bury. Jasper witnessed her resilience firsthand, a strength he had forgotten she possessed. He saw the sleepless nights, the quiet tears, the fear that shadowed her eyes, but he also saw her unwavering determination. It was a raw, visceral struggle, a battle for the very soul of her son. Jasper stood by her side, a steadfast sentinel. His support was no longer a mere obligation, it was a deeply felt commitment, fueled by a love for Maisie that had blossomed in his heart, and a growing affection for Leo, who, despite the looming threat, continued to find joy in the simple act of humming a tune. He found himself spending less time at the Blue Note, delegating more to his trusted staff. His priorities irrevocably shifted. His life, once a solo performance, was now a complex ensemble, and he was determined to play his part. During the discovery phase, the Millers unearthed every detail of Lena's past 5 years, every misstep, every moment of vulnerability. They paraded witnesses who spoke of Lena's struggles, her financial difficulties, the instability of her life on the road. The emotional toll on Lena was immense. Each piece of testimony was a fresh wound, tearing open old scars. Jasper watched, her wince, her shoulders slump, but then she would straighten, her jaw set, ready to face the next assault. He, too, was scrutinized. His past, his reputation as a reclusive jazz club owner, his initial detachment, all were laid bare. The Millers' lawyer tried to portray him as a latecomer, a man who only appeared when convenient, attempting to claim a ready-made family. Mr. Thorne, you admit you had no contact with Ms. Vance for 5 years, correct? The opposing counsel boomed during his deposition. And you only became aware of these children's existence when they stumbled into your establishment, seeking shelter from a storm? Jasper's voice was calm, steady, betraying none of the turmoil within. That is correct, but the moment I met them, I felt a connection, a responsibility. He looked directly at the lawyer, his stormy eyes holding a new, steely resolve. And I intend to honor that responsibility. The actual court proceedings were a draining, emotionally charged affair. The courtroom, usually a bastion of cool detachment, vibrated with unspoken tensions. Lena, pale but resolute, took the stand. She spoke of her love for Leo, her struggles with depression, her desperate attempts to build a new life for herself and her children. Her voice, initially wavering, grew stronger as she spoke of Leo's kindness, his joy, his innate musicality, a poignant contrast to the sterile arguments presented by the Millers. She admitted her mistakes, her flaws, but she did so with a dignity that transcended the accusations leveled against her. "I made mistakes," Lena confessed, her voice ringing with raw honesty. "Terrible mistakes. I ran because I was afraid, because I felt unworthy. But every single day, every breath I took was for my children. Leo is my world, and I will fight for him with every fiber of my being." Her words were a raw, heartfelt aria, a desperate plea that resonated with the jury, stirring a faint ripple of empathy in the stoic courtroom. Then came Jasper's turn. He walked to the stand, his dark suit a stark contrast to the bright lights of the courtroom. He spoke of Maisie, her intelligence, her spirit, the way she had instantly woven herself into his life. He spoke of Leo, his quiet sensitivity, his blossoming musical talent, the way he would hum Stardust when he was happy, a little human metronome that now marked the rhythm of Jasper's days. He didn't shy away from his past, his years of self-imposed isolation, acknowledging his flaws with a surprising humility. But then his voice deepened, filled with an unwavering conviction. "I was a man who believed he had lost everything, a man who had closed himself off from the world," Jasper testified, his gaze sweeping over the courtroom, his eyes finding Lena's. "But these children, they brought back the light. Maisie is my daughter, my own flesh and blood, a truth I never knew I was missing. And Leo, he may not be my biological son, but he is my son in every way that matters. He is a part of this family, a part of our lives." His voice, usually a deep, resonant tone, was now infused with an undeniable tenderness, a passionate crescendo that filled the courtroom. "I have found a family, a purpose, a reason to live again. Through them, I can offer them stability, love, a home filled with music and laughter. I can offer them a family that will always be there, no matter what." He spoke of the quiet evenings at his apartment, the children's laughter echoing through the previously silent rooms. He spoke of Maisie's small hand clutching his, of Leo falling asleep against his chest. He described helping Maisie with her homework, teaching Leo simple piano scales, moments of ordinary domesticity that painted a vivid picture of a man who had embraced fatherhood with a fierce, unwavering devotion. He painted a picture of a home, not just a house filled with a love that transcended biology, a love that was built on shared moments, on quiet understanding, on the healing power of connection. He wasn't just a jazz club owner, he was a father, a partner, a man transformed. The courtroom fell silent as Jasper finished, his words hanging in the air like the lingering notes of a beautiful, poignant melody. Even Martha Miller seemed to waver for a fleeting moment, a flicker of something akin to doubt in her unyielding gaze. The judge, a woman known for her stoicism, regarded Jasper with a thoughtful expression, a subtle shift in her posture betraying a flicker of emotion. The closing arguments were delivered, a final volley of legal rhetoric. The Millers' lawyer reiterated their claims, focusing on Lena's past instability and their own family's financial security. Clara Hayes, however, countered with a passionate plea for the emotional well-being of the children, emphasizing the profound bond they had formed with Lena and Jasper. She argued that a family was not defined by blood or wealth, but by love, commitment, and the ability to provide a nurturing environment. As the judge retired to deliberate, a profound tension settled over the courtroom. The fate of Leo, and by extension, the fragile future of Lena and Jasper's family, hung precariously in the balance. Jasper reached for Lena's hand, his fingers intertwining with hers, a silent promise of support. Their eyes met, a shared understanding passing between them. They had laid their souls bare, fought with everything they had. Now, all they could do was wait. The unexpected melody, once a gentle introduction, had swelled into a powerful, heart-wrenching aria, its final notes poised to determine the harmony or discord of their lives. The next chapter, they knew, would hold the answer. The silence in the courtroom after the judge retired to deliberate was a living thing, thick and heavy, pressing down on Lena and Jasper. Every tick of the clock was a hammer blow, marking the passage of moments that felt like eternities. Lena's hand in Jasper's was cold, clammy, yet her grip was fierce, a desperate anchor in the storm of their uncertainty. Maisie, sensing the tension, nestled closer to Jasper, her small hand clutching the lapel of his suit. Leo, ever observant, glanced between his mother and Jasper, his innocent eyes mirroring their unspoken anxiety. Then the murmurs began as the judge returned, the rustle of robes, the scrape of chairs, all amplified in the hushed space. The judge, her face unreadable, took her seat. She cleared her throat, and the very air seemed to hold its breath. In the matter of the custody of Leo Vance, she began, her voice steady, measured. Jasper's heart pounded against his ribs. A frantic drum solo. Lena squeezed his hand so tightly it almost hurt. The court has taken into consideration the testimony presented, the evidence submitted, and, most importantly, the best interests of the child. A collective intake of breath from the gallery. Martha Miller sat rigidly, her eyes fixed on the judge, a predatory gleam in them. Clara Hayes, their lawyer, offered a small, reassuring nod to Lena and Jasper. While the court acknowledges the stability and familial ties offered by the Miller family, the judge continued, it also notes the significant bond Leo shares with his mother, Eleanor Vance, and the emerging positive relationship he has formed with Mr. Jasper Thorne and his sister, Maisie Vance. She paused, her gaze sweeping across the courtroom, lingering for a moment on Lena, then on Jasper. The court also recognizes Ms. Vance's efforts to establish a more stable life and Mr. Thorne's demonstrated commitment to providing a loving and secure environment for both children. Jasper dared to breathe, a shallow, uncertain breath. Therefore, the judge declared, her voice ringing with finality, the court rules to grant joint legal custody of Leo Vance to Eleanor Vance and Jasper Thorne, with primary physical custody awarded to Ms. Vance. Supervised visitation rights are granted to the Miller family, to be arranged through counsel, ensuring Leo maintains a connection with his paternal family. A wave of relief, so profound it almost buckled Jasper's knees, washed over him. Lena gasped, a sob escaping her lips, and she turned, burying her face in Jasper's shoulder. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her close, a silent promise of unwavering support. Maisie, sensing the shift, let out a joyful squeal and wrapped her arms around Jasper's legs. Leo, though perhaps not fully understanding the legal nuances, beamed, a pure, unadulterated smile that lit up the courtroom. Martha Miller, however, was a statue of fury. "This is an outrage!" she hissed, but her voice was quickly silenced by the judge's gavel. The Millers, defeated but still simmering with resentment, eventually left, their faces grim, their departure a dissonant echo in the suddenly harmonious air. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity, a vibrant, complex new composition. Lena, though still recovering, was discharged from the hospital, returning to Jasper's apartment, which now truly felt like a home. Mrs. Henderson, a delightful co-conspirator, remained an invaluable presence, showering the children with affection and wisdom. The Blue Note, once Jasper's solitary fortress, became a backdrop for family life. Maisie would do her homework at a corner booth, her small fingers tapping out rhythms on the tabletop, mirroring Leo's earlier fascination. Leo, with his silver piano key charm, spent hours by the old, upright piano on the stage, picking out hesitant melodies, his small world expanding with every note. Jasper found himself transformed. The solitude that had defined him for so long had evaporated like mist in the morning sun, replaced by the joyful chaos of family. His carefully curated routine was now a flexible, living thing, adapting to school schedules, bedtime stories, and impromptu kitchen concerts. He still ran the Blue Note, but his heart was no longer solely in the music. It was in the laughter, echoing through his apartment, in the small hands clutching his, in the rediscovered warmth of Lena's presence. Lena, too, began to heal, not just physically, but emotionally. With Jasper by her side, and the unconditional love of Maisie and Leo, the heavy cloak of shame and depression began to lift. She found solace in the simple rhythms of domesticity, in cooking meals, in reading to her children, in the quiet conversations with Jasper late into the night. They spoke of the past, of the pain, of the reasons she had fled. Jasper listened, not with judgment, but with a profound understanding, a quiet empathy that allowed her to finally shed the burdens she had carried for so long. Their relationship, once a broken melody, was slowly, painstakingly, being reassembled note by note, chord by chord, into something richer, more resilient. Maisie thrived. Her green eyes, once guarded, now sparkled with curiosity and joy. She continued to be a natural performer, her theatrical flair finding a stage in the living room, enchanting Jasper and Lena with her dramatic readings and impromptu dance numbers. Her love for music deepened, and she began to learn basic piano, her small fingers eager to follow the melodies in her head. Leo blossomed under their care. The quiet, withdrawn boy transformed into a vibrant, inquisitive child. His musical talent, nurtured by Jasper, became more pronounced. He would spend hours at the piano, his small hands navigating the keys with an almost intuitive grace, often surprising Jasper with his ability to pick up complex harmonies by ear. Jasper, with a warmth he hadn't known he possessed, began to teach Leo the nuances of jazz, the subtle shifts, the improvisational spirit. He saw Lena's gift, amplified in the boy, and a quiet pride swelled within him. Leo's bond with Jasper deepened, a connection forged not by blood, but by shared passion and unwavering affection. He would often call Jasper Papa Jasper, a title that resonated in Jasper's heart like a perfectly struck chord. The supervised visits with the Millers were difficult, often strained, but manageable. Clara Hayes ensured that Leo's well-being remained paramount, and while Martha Miller remained cold and disapproving, the occasional visits allowed Leo to maintain a connection with Daniel's side of the family, a necessary, if sometimes uncomfortable, harmony. The story reached its crescendo on a warm summer evening at the Blue Note. The club, now filled with a vibrant, eclectic mix of regulars, friends, and family, buzzed with an infectious energy. It was Lena's first performance since her accident, a quiet, intimate set, but the true highlight was to be a special, unexpected collaboration. The lights dimmed and Lena stepped onto the stage, a soft smile playing on her lips. She looked radiant, her eyes holding a newfound serenity. She sang a bluesy, soulful rendition of "Summertime," her voice a rich, warm contralto that filled the room, a testament to her healing, her resilience. Then Jasper took the stage, his gaze meeting Lena's, a silent acknowledgement of their shared journey. He moved to the grand piano, his fingers brushing the keys. He began to play, a familiar, tender melody, Stardust. But this time, it wasn't a mournful echo of the past. It was a hopeful, vibrant new arrangement. As the melody swelled, Maisie, with a tiny, confident smile, walked onto the stage holding a small tambourine. Her eyes, shining with pure joy, met Jasper's. She started to play, her movements rhythmic and precise, adding a playful counterpoint to the piano's rich harmonies. The audience gasped, a ripple of delight spreading through the room. And then Leo. With a shy smile, he walked to the microphone, clutching his silver piano key charm. Jasper adjusted the mic for him. Leo, with a quiet confidence that belied his age, began to hum the familiar refrain of Stardust. But then, emboldened by Jasper's encouraging nod, he began to sing, his small voice clear and surprisingly strong, hitting each note with perfect pitch. It was a simple, pure sound, a raw, innocent melody that spoke of hope and love. The music flowed, weaving together a tapestry of sounds, Jasper's rich piano, Lena's soulful voice, Maisie's joyful tambourine, and Leo's pure melodic humming. It was a perfect harmony, a testament to their journey, to the family they had built. The blue note, once a symbol of Jasper's isolation, was now a vibrant, overflowing vessel of love, laughter, and music. As the final notes of Stardust faded, the applause erupted, a thunderous ovation that filled the club. Jasper looked at Lena, then at Maisie and Leo, who were beaming, basking in the warmth of the audience's appreciation. His heart, once a silent, fractured instrument, now resonated with a full, unwavering chord. The unexpected melody had found its harmony, a rich, complex symphony of love, family, and the enduring power of connection. His life, once a solo journey through a melancholic drizzle, had transformed into a vibrant, sun-drenched ensemble. Each member playing their part, each note contributing to the beautiful, unpredictable song of their lives. Commentary: the unexpected melody offers a poignant exploration of loss, resilience, and the transformative power of unexpected connections. Jasper's journey from self-imposed isolation to embracing the chaos and joy of a newfound family highlights the essential human need for connection and love. Lena's story of redemption, her courageous fight against past demons, and for her children, reminds us that healing is a process, often messy but always possible. The children, Maisie and Leo, serve as catalysts, their innocence and inherent musicality acting as a bridge to a richer, more meaningful existence for Jasper and Lena. The story teaches us that family isn't always defined by blood, but by love, commitment, and the willingness to fight for one another. It emphasizes that even in the face of profound loss and despair, there is always the possibility for new beginnings, for broken melodies to find their harmony. The final scene at the Blue Note, where all four play Stardust together, is a powerful metaphor for their unity, a testament to how music, like love, can heal, connect, and ultimately complete us. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for listening.